The Synod of Western Australia 2011, we're with Reverend Terrance Corkin, who is the General Secretary of Assembly. Terence, you presented to Synod this afternoon and you were talking about the wonderful work that Uniting Justice Australia does. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, Uniting Justice is a most amazing team that includes, of course, Synod people in the justice area, such as here in Western Australia, but is brought together on national issues, and particularly Commonwealth legislation and actions through the National Office of two people, a research assistant and the National Director. They make significant submissions based on high-quality research and in-depth understanding of complex issues such as the carbon policies, immigration policy, submissions on human rights legislation. We're working together at the moment with Congress on making a submission to the constitutional discussion that's being undertaken around recognition of Indigenous people in the Australian Constitution, a project that we'd worked on as a church, of course, just recently. That's a very labour-intensive undertaking just to even produce the material. But of course then there's the relationships, and Uniting Justice Australia, through Eleni Poulos, the National Director, spends a lot of time in relationships with politicians and of both sides of the House, the staffers and the senior bureaucrats, to be a person, a community of influence that the Uniting Church wants to be, as people genuinely wrestle with difficult issues. And it's very exciting that through those relationships and the quality of the work that we produce, that increasingly we're one of the go-to organisations in civil society when parliamentarians want to understand a way to meet the Church's concerns, because we're seen as genuinely engaged, well-informed and respectful. We're just not throwing bricks at people. We're trying to really assist them with what is often a difficult thing. So it's a great relationship that sometimes is lovely to see coming back the other way. Indeed, it's such an important work that's being done that we're looking at the moment about whether we can increase the resources nationally for that, because there's so many good things not getting done. For example, very popular resource from the last Assembly was an economy of life, reimagining the idea of human flourishing, and it's been enormously successful, but we haven't been able to put out education resources that our schools and agencies and many people are seeking to get hold of. So we think we've got to put some more resource to really get the value out of the quality we're doing there.
You mentioned the preamble, which the Australian government is now looking at identifying or acknowledging our first people, the Indigenous people. The Uniting Church in Australia has already gone through that process. What have we learnt from that process that you've shared with, when you've had the opportunity to, with government?
Yes, we met, the President and I, with Eleni Poulos, with Mick Gooder, the Human Rights Commissioner for Aboriginal Matters, and he invited us to that conversation expressly because of our experience in this journey. And one of the things we said is, you've got to listen to Indigenous people. It's got to be something that's meaningful to them, or it's not worth doing. If it's meant to enhance their place in society, it's got to be done in words and ways that carry that for them, not just make us feel good. So that's the thing that we've really highlighted. Then of course we spoke about the importance of helping people understand why it might be helpful to help Indigenous communities tell their story back into the wider community where they may not have relationships. And we've offered to support and broker, encourage community meetings and use our networks of church congregations to convene a community conversation around it. We do it around election times all the time, don't we? So why not do it around something like this? So that's some of the things we've offered into it at this stage, as well as the submission that we intend to make to the consultation, that we do believe it is important to consider a preamble component as well as any problems that are at the heart of the constitutional provisions.